Broadcasting live from the Trichomes.com studios in Southern California. It's time for your Morning Buzz. We bring you late-breaking news that keeps you up to date with what's happening in the cannabis industry.
All right. Good morning. Happy 420. It is the day. It's 420, and right now, from around the cannabis news world, we've got three headlines for you. We're going to go with some happy stuff. So thanks for joining today, and again, happy 420. Here we go with your headlines for today. There won't be a THC limit for driving in California. Next up is even Ben & Jerry's is fed up with the Senate inaction on marijuana legalization. And third is DC bill to provide workplace protections for marijuana consumers gets initial approval by City Council. So, first of all, just want to say thanks for everybody for joining. If it's your first time here, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps everybody else that's into the cannabis narrative and figuring out about the new laws and that kind of stuff. Help us find the channel, since we always deal with these age restriction things. Definitely wanted to throw a shout out to everybody out there on this great 420 holiday. We're going to be participating just a little bit later, but when it comes down to it, let's get to the headlines and make sure that we go through this stuff one step at a time. And the first thing is here, the first story has to do with knowing your rights. And we've spoken about this just recently. I'll get to it in the comments a little bit more in depth. But the headline is, there won't be a THC limit for driving in California. Task force on driving under the influence of cannabis in the state of California has concluded there should be no set limit of THC or THC metabolites in the bloodstream. Such limits are not backed by scientific research and should be scrapped, concluded the panel of experts led by the California Highway Patrol. Law enforcement, quote unquote, said should use their best available, scientifically validated roadside presumptive drug testing technology for possible drug-impaired driving investigation. The task force wrote but did not specify what these tools are. Currently, officers use field sobriety tests to determine cannabis impairment, although they could use better training, the task force suggestion. Some other states like Colorado have set per se limits on the THC metabolites in the bloodstream, but basically, again, this is they're trying to make it scientific, but it's a flawed system. It goes on to say blood tests are inherently flawed, research has shown, because they don't indicate how long the THC has been in the system, the driver's tolerance, how high they actually are, or whether they are impaired at that moment. They also can't give a precise indication of when the person consumed the cannabis. Let's see here. So again, it goes on to talk about how the technology isn't there yet. Various tools have been developed over the years for saliva tests to cell phone apps, but none has shown accurate enough to be otherwise deemed good enough. So, we've talked about it here on the channel before. We'll come to it, is consumption on the highway is about a public safety issue, right? It has to do with the fact that there's other people out there, and here at Trichomes and myself, personally, it's one of those things that to each their own, as long as you don't burst somebody else's bubble, stay out of my bubble type thing. And when it comes down to public safety, again, a lot of us here on the channel, a lot of us in the comments use cannabis regularly enough, knowing that, feeling that we're not a direct threat or someone that can cause harm based upon driving or doing that kind of a thing. Well, there's more tests coming around, and they're trying to figure this out. But as of right now, I just wanted to let everyone know that if you're here in California, basically, and when it comes down to any other state right now, but here in California, first of all, if you get pulled over, smelling cannabis is not is a probable cause to search you. So number one, that's it. If they don't catch you in the act, or you don't show signs of definite inebriation, just shut your mouth and comply and do what they ask. But long and short is, do not admit to using cannabis. And unless you've spoken to your attorney and it's after the fact and all that kind of thing. They cannot test for in the field sobriety, opposite of, having you sit there and do field sobriety tests like they would for being drunk and touching your nose and doing that kind of thing. Good thing I can touch my nose here while I'm sitting down. But that's where that particular um, law sits right now in California. We talked about it for New Jersey surrounding the police being able to participate in legal cannabis, of which I just saw another story where the governor of New Jersey is looking at banning police from utilizing cannabis. But we'll get into that Monday when there's a little bit more news available. So moving on to the second headline, I thought this one was kind of cool. It's 420. Again, wanting to show some positive stuff behind what's going on here in the headlines. And the next one up is even Ben and Jerry's is fed up with Senate inaction on marijuana legalization. Ben and Jerry's recognize that its advocacy for marijuana reform isn't surprising. They've previously leveraged 420 to raise attention to the issue. The company noted that the House approved the MORE Act earlier this month, and while Senate leadership has signaled that they would be introducing similar legalization bill this month, the timeline has been pushed, and that's disappointed everybody. Chris Miller, the head of global activism and strategy in Ben Jerry's, says the Black and brown community have borne the high cost of cannabis prohibition and the system of mass incarceration that it's fueled. While white men reap the financial benefits of the legal cannabis industry, Chris Miller said, the global head of activism strategy at Ben and Jerry's. That's why the Senate must immediately pass legislation that begins to right the wrongs of decade-long wars on drugs by legalizing cannabis and expunging records while restoring equity to the booming legalist cannabis industry. He goes on to be quoted saying, legalizing cannabis without justice is half-baked. And, really, they take a stance on this, and goes on to say that now Ben and Jerry's and the ACLU are joining chorus of voices saying that they're tired of waiting and urgent action is needed. And long and the short, Ben and Jerry's has been part of the industry for quite some time, and they've played on the half-baked and a few of the sayings within the community and that kind of stuff for a while. Plus, they are a fantastic stoner munchie, if I might add myself. Yes, like Little Max said, Cherry Garcia, I'm pretty sure you just named my favorite. It's been a while since I've had some Ben and Jerry's, but I'll tell you what, Cherry Garcia was the shit. So it's good to see activists out here like that. It's they're calling attention to certain issues, and long and the short is it's a call to action for the Senate. They're out there. They're a company of note. They've got a large following, and they're calling for action by the Senate, which is a huge thing. So before we get lost in that conversation, on to the third title, which has to do with Washington, D.C. to provide that puts in workplace protections for marijuana consumers, and it got initial approval. Let's see if we can get back real quick to that title. And so again, the title is DC Bill to Provide Workplace Protections for Marijuana Consumers, and it gets initial approval by City Council. On yesterday, Washington, D.C. lawmakers advanced a bill to ban most workplaces from firing or otherwise punishing employees for marijuana use, setting up a measure for final passage early next month. Councilmember Trayon White is sponsoring the legislation, which was slightly amended before being unanimously approved by the Committee of the Whole, which is comprised of all 13 members of the full council. Let's see. It previously moved through the Labor, Workforce, and Development Committee last month. The Cannabis Employment Protections Amendment Act would expand on previous legislation the DC Council approved to protect local government employees against workplace discrimination due to their use of medical cannabis. Councilmember Elisa Silverman said at the committee of the whole hearing on Tuesday that there's a disconnect between the district legalization of cannabis and its employment laws. Even though cannabis is legal, workers can be fired or disciplined for using it in their personal time without any impact on their work, she said. And that, that's one of those things that, again, they go on to say police and safety sensitive construction workers and people with jobs that require commercial driver's license or work with childcare and patients and physicians with the potential to significantly impact the health or safety of employees or other members of the public could still be fired or punished for cannabis use. However, again, that's where we get into this debate about the bubble and people basically being able to affect others through their use and or performance or that kind of thing. So that's the headlines for today. It is 420. We've been working with a few sponsors. We're getting things rallied up, and as you guys know, since I've taken over the buzz here, I am basically been shoddy here. We jumped on at just before 8 today. It's 420. We got a whole bunch of stuff going on. We've got some influencers coming by the shop. We're going to be going live on a couple different platforms, including our app. And yeah, Steve Woods, I saw, do I have an email? I most certainly do. And realistically, the best thing for us would be if you sent into podcasts at, I'm going to put it in right now, trichomes.com. And trichomes.com. There we go. And that, Steve Woods, is for you. And anybody else who would like to contact us about things, please go ahead and feel free to use that email. It does come directly to me through a couple filters. So always looking for feedback and interest in the company and that kind of thing. So yeah, we're here on 420, and to all of us watching and everybody in the comments, our regulars here. This is that day. It's been self-proclaimed by all of us for quite some time, and this is the holiday of stoners everywhere. Right now, one of the biggest things across our nation is the imbalance of how legal or not legal this is, and really that's the fallacy here. That's the problem that it remains this 420, and really, again, that's where we sit as a channel is trying to help others understand where cannabis is at right now and what they can do about it to help change the narrative, to talk to their senators, to talk to their local government, and to begin the process of going down the medical marijuana path, which seems to be the path of least resistance when we're trying to get something on the books, and or going directly to recreational cannabis, of which it would be tough for me to find one single instance of one state going from 0 to, let's call it, 100 being recreational cannabis laws right off the bat. It seems that most, if not all, of the states have gone directly through medical cannabis and then updated their laws to include recreational cannabis. Reverses, kind of reverses. So all of a sudden, the recreational laws take precedence there, and because they've got more money attached to them. And just like you're seeing here in California, where there's been a new bill drafted to protect what was originally brought here with the bill, was that essentially you've got a bill that was passed here in 1996 for medical access for people in California. And along the way, there's this gray area, and then people were still getting in trouble, and raids were still happening, and medical patients really didn't have access. But then along comes Prop 64, and while it's something that I didn't vote for because looking behind the scenes and reading the small print, it wasn't the right law. Right now, California is dealing with that as it has to, but there was one, and we'll have to get back into it. It's something that we covered earlier this week, but there's one group of people that's remembering what this law was set in for, and it's for medical access for all that require it, right? And that's the thing is we passed a law here in California that said everyone in California should be granted access to medical marijuana. Well, within that same law, or excuse me, the addition to that law with Prop 64, and which turned into MRCRSA, it allowed for an opt-in, opt-out for the cities and municipalities around California. So 62% of the municipalities opted out. There's 62% of the state of California where people, it's the California people who voted this into law, they don't have direct access to medical cannabis. They don't have a delivery that'll drive it out to them. They are still forced to drive, hours to a legal dispensary or go find the plug, right? And for a lot of us here in California, hey, the plug's a friend. We know maybe there's clean cannabis, but for the most of the people coming to cannabis to find solace in medication or a new treatment or that kind of thing, they don't have a plug. They don't have a friend that they can count on. They more than likely are getting it from places unknown, and a lot of that still has to do, if it's not produced in a licensed facility, the chances of use of pesticides, PGRs, any of that other kind of stuff goes up significantly because there's no testing surrounding it. And when someone's specifically using it for medical purposes, I don't really have to go into it too much, but if there's pesticides present and there's other things that are wearing on your immune system, it's going to definitely to harm the interaction that you're having between the plant and yourself, and it's going to take a toll on your body to process all this stuff. So uh, again, we're talking about the fact that medical cannabis should be available to anyone, regardless of what state you're in, and that kind of stuff. At this juncture, 91% of you out there, including myself, believe that in the United States, everyone should have access to cannabis. 91%. That's not even an overwhelming majority. That's like pretty much everybody. And you can all, figure out in your family who to yell at on that 9%. Somebody to yell at when it comes down to the holdouts and that kind of thing. But again, so what we have in California is what the rest of the states are going through. You had the passing of a medical law, you go into recreation, and then all the medical laws are basically forgotten about. So really, as you're working with your state, as you're working with your local government and that kind of thing, remember that California is something to look at when it comes down to what not to do, right? These taxes and the way that Prop 64 overruled the medical stuff that we put into place. They did it so that essentially that they could gain the money from it without losing the medical protections. But within that, they also took away the medical availability on a widespread level to the state. So that's one of those things that today, while we're celebrating and while we should celebrate this monumental, moment, it's 420 and it's legal in more states on some level than it's not here in the US. And when it boils down to it, that's an amazing thing. Let's see, Little Mac, 86, 30 years ago in Ohio, had a plug in 5 different cities, and sometimes it was still dry. Things have come a long way. Forward progress is forward progress. Again, I mirror that. We do have forward progress going on, and there's a lot to say about where we're at today versus where we were 5, 10, 15 years ago. California obviously has been moving along a little bit further than faster than most of the other places, but still, it's been one of those things as to where it's forward progress. But really, when you have people that are still in prison, when you have people who have medical needs that don't have access, you're forgetting some of the main points behind what this fight is. And I'm not talking about us as a people. I'm talking about the people drafting laws and doing that kind of thing, where a lot of the politicians are doing, the good old two steps forward and one step back, like Little Max said, is essentially they're going out, they're garnering public opinion, they're garnering support for this next election cycle, and they're really trying to stay in office, and they're saying things that are popular amongst the people, but that's because they know that most people, and I probably exclude a lot of people on this channel in the comments, but most people don't read the fine print. That's how Prop 64 got passed in California. That's how a few of these other things, go through unnoticed. When you're talking about a federal legalization bill that includes a 25%, you know, excise tax attached to it, when places like California have already 27% and up to 32%, depending on where you're at and what city you're at, and that kind of thing. It automatically makes it real tough if people aren't reading the fine print. And it's I'm here to say that, regardless of legalization, decriminalization, anything on a federal level, states are going to have the rights to opt in on certain counts and certain levels, and whether it's medical or it's recreational. What we want to do here with this channel is give everyone, as much information as possible to go speak with their state and set their record straight as much as possible, and vote the right way, the best they can, based upon the choices we get. And the choices we get come from the people who are lobbying and sitting there ground floor with our politicians and that kind of stuff, and speaking into their ears and giving them these ideas. But ultimately it comes from the people who are our politicians, and unless we're sitting there talking to them, unless we're voting with our, the showing the power of the vote and moving people from office, um, things are likely to stay the same, and especially in these holdout states, of which I know we have quite a few people in the comments that are from there. So again, today's 420, and it is our holiday. And we've got some good stuff going on, but realistically, we've got more battle to have, and the battle is on a decriminalization level and a descheduling level, to make sure that everybody who wants to participate, everybody that's part of our community, whether they're part of the trichomes community or the recreational users, or the people who still crop from the plug, that they have the ability to participate without worrying about a jail sentence or going to prison federally. And really, that's the thing today. Is today we celebrate 420, and we celebrate the two steps forward, that we've been having and the progress that we have been having. But we also want to call attention to the fact that we're not all the way done yet. And this last bit of federal legislation, whether it be decriminalization or whether it be full outright legalization, is something that is going to set the tone for the next, 10, 20 years of cannabis use, not only for ourselves, but for the people that are coming into it. And really, what we can do for ourselves and for the people who are coming to cannabis and realizing more and more every day that it's a viable treatment for medical circumstances and doing all that kind of stuff is really, really take a look at the laws, take a look at the circumstances, and vote accordingly. Vote for the right laws. Vote for place. And I'm stating some obviouses here, but this is something that has gone from being a partisan issue to now there's bipartisan support. So really, it's about voting for the people, and voting for the laws, regardless of which side of the aisle they're coming from, that truly have the least amount of small print, but the small print we can live with. There's going to be more incarceration coming from public safety issues. There's going to be people who stand to get in more trouble. Prop 64 didn't provide too many provisions for people between 18 and 21. As a matter of fact, there was some stuff in the law that actually still had people of that age range getting in trouble for amounts, and it's more than a slap on the wrist for getting caught growing over 12 plants here in California. And that's just the wrong thing, because people 18 to 21, they're just learning their lives, and they shouldn't be arrested for cannabis. They shouldn't have a different outcome for this just because they're underage and going through teenage stuff and doing that kind of thing. If you're 18 years old and can go, fight for our country, you should be able to be protected while smoking a joint. That's my personal 2 cents. Don't come at me too hard. So I got Gail Thornberry. I live in Missouri, and I was hoping you might have some information. You know, right now to go searching for Missouri, I would have to do a quick state, but I'm not sure of where we're at with Missouri at the moment. Um, I, you know, let's see. Oh, here we got some news here for Missouri. So we've got a GOP-led bill to legalize marijuana in Missouri heads to the House floor as a key deadline approaches. This actually came through Marijuana Moment about 19 hours ago. Republican Representative Ron Hicks is sponsoring the Cannabis Freedom Act, which advanced out of the House Public Safety Committee on a narrow vote last month, and now has been approved by the Rules Legislative Oversight Committee on a 6-4 vote, pretty narrow margin. With the session set to end on May 13th, time is of the essence. But Hicks recently said that the timeline remains feasible, and and he's quote unquote seen Bill sail through the process in a week. The lawmaker said that it really comes down to whether we have the will to tackle it. So yeah, real quickly to address that, Gail Thornberry, a there is a bill right there in Missouri that's you know available for you to take a look at, and it has to be passed before May 13th. So you might want to look at it on a little bit more of a local deal. We'll probably provide links here in the description later after I get done with the live. But there is your update for Missouri. Let's see here. Steve Woods, along with the Missouri update, I'm going to go ahead and find your comment is New Jersey still needs to work on growing at home. I'm going to find out as much as I can about the home grow and see what their limitations and or exclusions are, and then I'll post a link and we'll get back to that and we'll bring it up for discussion probably on Monday. Let's see. So, Gail Thornberry, you asked about is it federally legal yet? The House passed the bill. Where does the Senate sit on all this? And essentially, we covered last week that Schumer said that they were going to be releasing the bill to the Senate here roughly around the end of April. And that didn't happen. They ended up pushing, and essentially, the bill is going to be, I guess, the new date for it is supposed to be before the end of session, which is in August. And really, we don't know much more about that. We've discussed before that with the way things sit, it's still roughly about a 50-50 on a passing, and that's very non-committal. I understand, but that's what all the experts say, and there's a lot standing in the way of this as well. AKA Cajun Indian, it's going to. I have a good darn feeling about that. And I really, it might not be this administration that it's going to be passing. And for everybody else, he says, I'm 63 and I hope it becomes legal before I die. And, it might not be this administration because definitely they're showing their true colors on this one. But I do see this happening in the next 3 to 5 years. And some things passing along the way that will put in protections for people in the states where the laws have passed. Those holdout states are going to remain a problem until the people of those states speak loud enough to their local municipalities and their state representatives to be heard. And that's going to be through voting. That's going to be through standing on the doorsteps of the Capitol. And that's going to be by going and getting petitions signed and doing all that kind of stuff, doing the advocacy work, doing the legwork, because the holdout states obviously, they're not listening to reason because there's enough reason out there of which could turn most minds over. Let's see. I like that. I like that. Little Mac, 420 game. Take a toke every time you see an Amazon truck pass by. Uh, that could get a lot of people super high because of the fact that right down the street, we're strategically placed here because we're in the center of Southern California, but right down the street about I'd say about 8 miles by the freeway, about about the same as the crow flies, is the largest Amazon distribution center in this immediate area in Southern California. They've got a couple million square feet of distribution, and even the ones that you don't see marked Amazon are actually probably delivering a lot for them. So, yeah, it's funny because after you send that, there's no one coming by yet. But hey, I wanted to take a second. And again, we've got people coming in and out. Thanks for everybody joining on the 420. It's likes and subscribes really help us out, really help other people passing by find us on days like today. I do want to take a second and say, we're getting into some sponsorships. We're working with people on different things and working with different groups to help the channel out. And long and the short is, we've got a sponsor for today I wanted to throw a shout out to. We're going to be, highlighting some of them doing a product review. But over here in California, Dime Vapes has been a friend of ours for a while. They've been supporting the channel. Got a great team over there. Actually, we've got some influencers coming in from Chicago, and they're going to be starting here at the Trichomes facility and then taking a field trip over to the Dime headquarters. It's not where they manufacture anything, but it is where the fun is. So there's going to be a lot of people over there for the day. It's 420 in California, so there's a lot of stuff going on, but we're kind of running our own program over there. And that being said, I'm going to go ahead and participate in a little 420 myself. And this is that pen I was just showing you. It's the Forbidden Fruit from Dime Vapes, and these things hit. We've been staying away from participating on the channel, but yeah, cheers to everybody out there. It's 420, and they're restricting my content anyway, so fuck it. Sorry about the language, but it's 420. And this is what we do. So again, thanks for Dime for the sponsorship and being part of the channel. Whoops, there we go. Again, liking and subscribing really helps us out. We've got a lot of people coming, and we're trying to get a little more let's call it consistent with our airings and our shows and our formats. But right now we're in the middle of these kind of things, and that's why I'm here answering some questions, going over the daily news with you guys, is so that we can keep the morning buzz value and kind of get some feedback on what you want to hear and when. Opposite of these shows here in the morning on YouTube, we've got a whole bunch of good stuff coming up on our app, and some great shows coming up with some good info around the United States, and really looking forward to seeing what your feedback is on it, because it's one of those things that you help us understand what's missing in cannabis. You help us understand what you want to hear, and we thank you very much for your participation. And yeah, I just want to say thanks for coming by. Thanks for all the comments. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Happy 420, everybody. Be safe. Be well. We're going to catch up with you tomorrow, and then I'll be talking a little bit more about the go forward schedule here for the time being for the buzz and us going live and that kind of deal on Friday. We'll have the weekly roll up as well coming up. That'll be Jason and I. John was out at the Benzinga Cannabis Conference over the 420 holiday. Well, he's out there right now today. And yeah, hey, everybody, again, thanks for joining us. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And that's it. Have a great 420. be safe, be well, and make sure to pass the Dutchie to the left-hand side. Talk to everybody soon. Thanks a lot.